The separation, so this civilizational process of separation has an internal reflection, which is our concept of self, our sense of self, our identity, by which we've come to be alone. Its culminating articulation was probably Descartes, who said, here's what a self is. It's a little tiny mote of spirit imprisoned in a robot made of flesh, imprisoned in a machine made of flesh. Separate not only from other beings, but separate from materiality, separate from the world, separate from the body. And every field echoed that basic articulation. A self is a discrete, separate being. In economics, that's what a self is. It's a rational actor seeking to maximize rational self-interest, which is the interest of this small self. In biology, the same thing. Now, this is all changing now, okay? Or we're seeing the beginnings of a shift. But biology, too. A self seeks to maximize its genetic self-interest. Your fundamental nature in biology is to maximize your chances of survival and reproduction. And if that's at the expense of another being, well, too bad. Nature is red in tooth and claw, it is said. Economics and biology agree on this basic principle, which can be summed up as more for me is less for you. Or it can be summed up as you're bad. It's not very nice to maximize your rational self-interest. Therefore, we have an entire edifice of control built into our civilization. The control comes in the form of training children to deny their desires because you're bad. Your fundamental nature is greed. It's in the legal system, the penal system, to say, okay, we all know that we're really out for our own self-interest, so we're going to have to create an artificial system of interest that contradicts that and that counteracts that. Like Rod, man, I would really love to just steal your wallet because I would gain, $200 from that. But but so if I see your wallet lying around, I might do that. That would be my natural instinct. However, we have the system of punishments. There's maybe a 10% chance I would get caught, and then I would have to pay a $5,000 fine. 10% of $5,000 is $500. Therefore, I calculate, maybe this is unconscious, that this would not be in my self-interest to do that. Thank goodness for laws. and for all of this training, that basically taps on my fear of, well, really what it comes down to is my fear of rejection by the parent. So because we're trained to be good. And if you're not good, then daddy rejects you, mommy rejects you. So we're trying to use the survival instinct against this biological survival instinct. And that sets up a war against the self. From which there is no escape except through collapse. Pervaded every institution of our culture, and that controlled everything. What do you guys think about that?
You're talking about building layers on top of things. You build the perceptual level, you build the...
Each of these levels does include the ones before it, and various cultures have decided to stop at a certain place in this course of separation. But you know what? Pretty much everywhere where you have agriculture, you have very negative manifestations of separation. Almost everywhere there was agriculture, there was slavery, including in North America. I mean, there was environmental degradation. There was usually a phase of human sacrifice, warfare. Almost everywhere where there was slavery, I mean, where there was agriculture, you had mass warfare. And yeah, Native American agricultural societies were not immune to this at all. These things go along with the mentality of separation. And it was just in Europe where the pinnacle, everything that where the pinnacle occurred, and everything that exists in this universe wants to come to fulfillment. And the age of separation is coming into fulfillment in our time. It's coming into its consummation. Does that meet what you were saying?
Well, I think there's room for discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think there's some North American tribes that were very warlike, but there is a way, Kat Anderson wrote a book called Cultivating the Wild, which is, and, I don't know, like the technology.
Yes. Every institution of our civilization has a counterpart, kind of the same note at a higher octave, it will still exist in the more beautiful world that our hearts tell us is possible. So including agriculture, and people are developing these things already, permaculture, that is co-creative, like you said, and even industrial technology. People like Paul Hawken are developing what he calls an industrial ecology that follows the principles of natural ecology, that waste is food, that nothing is returned to its source in a form that will be toxic and accumulate. So yeah, this is the transition that's happening. Mm-hmm.
Discard the whole
when
history of whatever
right.
progress. I think we're going to still be third-dimensional bodies. We're going to be food.
Yeah.
And unless we get out of these bodies, we need a place
Right.
to live and food. So there's something's going to need to be produced.
The extreme of separation, when it's fulfilled, it will give birth to its opposite. So yes, everything we see around us, everything that hurts us about life and the world, boils down to separation, to this very deep ideology that says essentially you are a discrete, separate being in a universe of other. You are alone. More for you is less for me. We are fundamentally enemies. We're in a finite world competing for what we need. And we can try hard to be nice, and therefore, there's this prejudice that the developed person, the conscious person, the good person, is one who negates himself, who sacrifices himself or herself, who goes against her desires, who's not selfish. Like, why is selfish an insult? You're so selfish. Well, it's because the self is bad. I mean, selfish means that you're going along with this biological and economic urge to maximize your interests at the expense of everybody else.